welcome to the best band I ever played with. This is a show about people who play live music, but not necessarily people who are famous, and not always even people who do it as their main job. But it's about people who will play week in and week out, in pubs, in small venues, occasionally in people's basements. They do it wherever they can, to whoever will listen, and normally for a small amount of money and some warm cans of Red Stripe, if they're lucky. That would normally be me, but the pandemic has forced myself and a lot of others to take a break. There's not been a lot of gigs on, really, so I thought it'd be nice to chat to some other people who did this. My guest for this episode has been around the block a bit. Most recently, he was playing with the Leeds-based post-punk band Lumer, but also with Vulgarians, who, if like me, if you were cooking dinner and listening to Radio 6 at various times between 2017 and 2018, you will have heard a few times. I think Steve Lamacq really liked them. He also played with Pillgrinns, who regular listeners will remember from episode 2 with Matthew Hoyk. In this chat, we talk about deciding to play gigs around Europe, mistakes you can make when you start a band, and the best band that he ever played with. So there's more from me at the end, but first, I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Thom Foster. McDade's in Le Havre.
Yes, yeah. McDade's is this crazy Irish bar, and it was our third gig there. So we had like there's these dudes who'd been to every one of our shows there, which was really cool. So we met them again, and it ended with like a big party, and there was like an air rifle. It was weird. It was fun though.
Yeah, you've done a fair bit of the European show.
Yeah, done France a lot, and then done Rotterdam quite a bit. But mainly just France and Rotterdam. I don't know why those two places, but just the city of Rotterdam and a lot of France. But that's about it.
But how did that come about then? Because I mean, it's not like that's something everyone's been doing.
Yeah, it's not your average underground UK band fair, is it? Well, to be honest, like a lot of the stuff with Lumer came about just because we were quite, to be honest, arrogant little bastards. And we saw what a lot of other bands were doing, and we just thought, well, if they're doing it, they're shite, we can do it. And we were really quite frustrated by a lot of the cliquiness and industryness of things, so we just went out and did things ourselves. So the first time we went over to Europe, it was with Andy, our old manager, and he'd been TMing. So he'd been driving like a lot of Australian bands, a lot of garage bands and stuff around Europe, and he'd got quite linked in with a few promoters over there, and we sort of, the first one it wasn't financially viable at all, mate. It was like, fuck it, we've got a show in Le Havre. I didn't even know where Le Havre was, mate. I'd never heard of it. And actually, it's one of my favourite cities in France now. It's like a brutalist, really, really gorgeous post-war city in the north of France. It's fucking cold, but it's lovely. We just sort of picked up these odd shows, and the first time we went to the Netherlands, it was on this first thing when we went to Le Havre and went to Rotterdam. We played 2 shows, one in a squat and one in a fucking studio, and we just met this guy who ran this studio, Nick, lovely guy, still friends actually. I go back to Rotterdam every year in October. Obviously can't this month. Obviously Bedroom were going to be playing, and I was going to go see them, but that's not happening now. But this guy Nick has a really cool studio. I think he's just moved his studio actually. But it was so crazy. We just walked into this room, and the building had been all sorts of things. It had been in the war. It was where they'd stitch uniforms and stuff, and then it was a school, and then it'd been a Pentecostal church, and then it was a recording studio. And he had loads of old vintage gear, and it's dude, how do you get a Matamp Blue to the Netherlands? You know what I mean? How did you get this amp? Sorry, I'm going off track here now. But we met loads of cool people, and we just it was just one thing led to another really, until we had a bit of a presence. We realised these bands like Shame, and they actually built their career really off a lot of French touring. So it goes to show if there is definitely Anglophilia over there. They love British bands, and they fucking get a right rock on for British music. So yeah, I don't know. You get more interest and like over there than you do playing in your own hometown. So once we realised that, and realised that we were going to get paid like, you know, €400 for it and loads of wine, it was like a fucking no-brainer. But yeah, that's sort of that really. That's sort of how it started.
Yeah, it's funny because you hear people talk about like booking a show in like Glasgow or something, which is normally in the same state as nearly said country there. Don't want to trigger anything. And just like then coming back and just be like, this was a terrible idea. No one came. It took ages. So I mean, the idea of like, you know, you guys going off to Rotterdam, France, Belgium, whatever. Seems like quite like a, I don't know, almost like more bold, like more risky thing to do. But it sounds like
travel further, go even further and see what, Well, that's the thing. Yeah. You pretty much described our first and only Glaswegian show there. It was fucking long drive. You got there. We supported probably the worst band. I think we were going to talk about some of the best bands we've played with. I think the worst was probably in Glasgow. If any of them heard this, I really would want to apologise to them and slagging off their band, but they were really bad. It was sort of like a bad Morrissey. How to describe him? He was like the singer of Scouting for Girls, and Morrissey had a fucking weird child, and that was his presence. He was sort of doing that, singing about going for tea with some girl, and it was just like, man, this is bad. This is really bad. And they were called the Yearmans as well. The Yearmans. I don't know if that's still a thing.
The Yearmans.
But we actually ended up staying at two of their houses, and they lived in this really like gorgeous tenement flat in Glasgow. And we had a really nice time and just got stoned. And they had all this these old BBC radio preamps, and they were like, "Oh yeah, the radio station, we're just selling it all, getting rid of it, like really cheap." I'm like, what? So they just had this like crazy like Banjax old BBC set up in their living room, and like they had like a little, you know, those old tiny TVs you get like in your grandma's old bedroom or something, the little square ones. Had like one of them, but then they'd like rigged it with like their old games console and like a projector. It was just like the craziest stoner setup going. It was just like, you guys are great. So I have love for the Yearmans, but also the Yearmans. So I feel like I'm deviating a bit here.
Said something along the lines of that when you were in Pillgrinns, you made like every mistake that a band could make. Yeah,
we did. Yeah.
What mistakes?
So like everything. Like, to be honest, like I still have so much love for Pillgrinns. Like, I still fucking love Pillgrinns. To be honest, like I'm really proud of all the music. But then like we were just so shit. Like we couldn't manage a band. Like we had no idea how to manage a band. We had no idea how to, I mean, like we could get gigs in that we just made gigs happen and then played. we couldn't get gigs, you know what I mean? And we couldn't, we when things didn't work, we just made things. So like we couldn't get any shows in Leeds, so we just made a show in Leeds. Like we were disappointed with the general scene in Huddersfield, so we sort of just made a bit of a scene there, and like really, really pushed people to gigs and made these crazy shows. So it was like, I don't know, all these mistakes, like releasing music. Like I didn't realize that there was such like you know, like there was a right way to do that, or how to get an audience, or how to engage your your fans or whatever, or it was just like, yep, we're a band, fucking come along, you know what I mean? Like, and we had no idea what we were doing. And I just think if those songs were put in the right hands, I think they could have been like, we could have done a lot more. I think we could have done a lot more, but alas, you learn from these things.
Yeah, you do. I think when you do these things, most of your learning comes from trial and error.
Exactly.
Because I mean, there's not a lot of. Obviously, some people that like happen to be around the right people who know certain things, but
exactly.
Like if you're not, then it's a lot of like, oh well, I guess I'll just put this thing online and see what happens.
Yeah, and usually 9 out of 10 times, fuck all happens. And that's that, and that's what we learned. It was like no one cares, no one gives a shit about the North. No one cares about guitars really anymore, or like lads singing. Like, so actually, yeah, maybe this has been a bit trodden. This ground's a bit fucking, a bit trodden over. But I don't know. I still think there's still some appeal in like songwriting and songcraft, and I think people out there still fucking, want to hear.
If you could, this is a very cliched question, but coming up,
Hit me.
And the thing is, like this is a question that people ask in interviews a lot, and it never gets a particularly good answer.
So I'll be perfect too.
Yeah, but I think it is an interesting question, and because certainly just thinking back to when, say, I was first playing gigs, or like people I know were first playing gigs, and you sort of think like, I'm looking back now, like, there weren't a lot of people around us who knew what to do, so it was a lot of like feeling out and like. But what would you say if you could go back in time to
young
a
17-year-old Foz who was just
and just be like, and here are things that you are gonna do, but you shouldn't do it. You should do it like this.
Save myself some time.
Yeah.
Fuck. If I could go back and give myself one bit of advice.
Thing is, like, advice that isn't like, oh, just chill out. Like, just don't take it too seriously, man.
Yeah,
because
that's non-advice.
That's the answer that like gets given a lot.
Yeah, because the thing is, and if I'm sorry, if I went back to myself, I was like, whoa, it's me from the future, and I was just like, yeah, just chill out, man. I'd be fucking pissed. Like, what do you mean, just fucking chill out? Who the fuck are you? Don't come back here telling me to calm down. Fucking, you know what, mate?
Time travel is real?
Yeah, fucking what? Yeah, I don't know. I think I would probably be like, you know what? Move to London. Fuck off Huddersfield. You're not gonna. It's not gonna happen. Even Leeds. Just don't bother, mate. Don't bother. There's been Gang of Four. There's been Pale Saints. There's people from Leeds, Kaiser Chiefs, but Leeds isn't even happening. Go to fucking London. That's what I'd say. I'd say move to the fucking south, because like you were saying earlier about Rotterdam and stuff. If you're in fucking London, you're in Paris. As far as things go, like you can fucking get to Paris easier than you can get to Glasgow. So fucking, if you can take on fucking London, Paris, mate, you've taken pretty much, you forget America. You don't need to get in with the Parisians, mate. They're way cooler. Fucking just do that. Go there. Go to London and get a leather jacket. That's what that's what I'd say. if fucking, that's what I'd say.
Thom Foster.
Hello.
You've played gigs.
I have.
With a variety of bands.
Yes.
In a variety of locations.
Yep.
Who is the best band that you ever shared a lineup with?
Fuck. Okay, at this point, I've got to shout out a number of bands, because they're fucking absolute legends. I've been very fortunate to share fucking stage with a number of bands over the years, and some really, really fucking good ones. Ones that made us go, oh shit, I need to do better. A lot of bands like that. Chronologically, I'll drop a few, just because they're just absolutely, I think these have shaped everything. These are bands that have definitely shaped how, I want to do things. So there's a band called Pepe Sylvia, a band from Huddersfield, Leeds sort of end. Guy called Sean, who's in Colour of Spring as well, and a few other things, but it's like a side project. And they were just awesome, man. They had a proper fucking Velvet Underground sort of vibe to them. But then who else? Yeah, fucking loads of sick bands, to be honest. But bands we met on the road. There's a band called Blind Alon from a project of Side was one dude, and bubbled into a full project, a full band thing. It's really cool, dark wave, French dark wave, and remixes a lot of tracks. It's fucking cool, man. And we played with them in Toulouse, and it was whoa, yeah, this is cool. We're sitting on a bill with an act like this. We can bring more electronic stuff in. And they had a member who she's an artist, and she had live projections, and she had a video turntable, and so she had composed she had full banks for each track, and she'd basically it made a individual artwork for each song, and it was fucking really cool. So it had this whole visual element as well, and it was just whoa, shit, yeah. Yeah, they're a big one. Blind Alon, check them out. And they're still bopping away. Then Pig Frenzy, and then another one we met on the road. Met a guy Timo. This is sort of leading on to probably, I don't know, the band. I don't know if they are the band. I don't know. You could ask me this question any day, and it'd be one of these bands that I'm saying today. But all of these bands I'm mentioning are very significant. Yeah, Pig Frenzy, absolutely. Timo, absolute fucking legend. He sorted us out when we first went over to the Netherlands and stuff, and yeah, they're his band, and they're these crazy fucking punk bastards from Rotterdam, and they're just the energy is insane, and they've got this real kooky guitar sound. Their guitarist plays in a shoegazy sort of band as well, so it's really cool, the spin on things he does, playing hardcore punk, it's not a conventional sort of approach. Fucking drummer used to wear his fucking pig mask as well, and it's dude, you must be sweating, man. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, Pig Frenzy, a big one.
But you sent me a message that said Quim Reaper.
Yeah, Quim Reaper we got introduced to by our old manager, and Andy, and they were this garage band from the Isle of Wight. 4 guys, and they were just fucking mental, to be honest. All the things we'd heard about them through our manager was just all right, yeah, okay, whatever, Andy. And then we actually met him, and we're oh my god, for real, you know what I mean? Luke, who played guitar and sang a bit, because they all sort of swapped around quite a bit. He'd been in another band called Spaff Tits, I think they're called. But this was quite a big deal, because they were on bills with they sort of had a thing in London, had a bit of a presence, and they were on bills with Happy Meal Limited and stuff back in the day, and Vulgarians and other bands who actually went on and did things. It was oh shit, this fucking band called Spaff Tits from it was what? So then he ended up starting this band Quim Reaper, and he used to do all the art and stuff, and it was all very political, collagey, school drawings, and very crude, and cocks everywhere, and it was but it was kind of cool, man. It was so shit and so consistent. It actually had an aesthetic, and it was oh shit, man, this is cool. This is your thing. And you went around his house, and his house was just full of art, and had this music room of just full of kooky old music gear, and it's oh shit, this is for real. You actually do this, and we had fucking grinders with they just got fucking shit stickers on and just put on and doodled over, and they told us merch and stuff, and it was oh my goodness, this is sick. It was sort of oh okay, because we ended up staying there. That's how we met them. was our first show because we were on this like little European leg, and we'd gone down to the Isle of Wight. Fucking gorgeous. Never been before, and it was like, oh my god. And we met them all there, and we played a show with them. This bar up in there. And we stayed at the singer's house. Luke stayed at his house for a few days. It was really lovely. And that's before we did our first like European days. So we went to the Isle of Wight, and then we went over to France.
Yeah, So they've got this one EP on Bandcamp entitled Quim Reaper EP.
Yeah, the self-titled.
Came out December 2016. That's great. Really enjoyed listening to that.
I fucking love that EP.
It's very... What's the word? Like it's... yeah, so I've, you know what? I found this review of it on louderthanwar.com.
Oh man,
which is, yeah, it just says proper punk rock from the devil's own garage. It's quite like all the songs are like tight 2 minute, 3 minute. I mean, not even 3, but like only like one of them goes over 3, but the rest is like low 2s, couple under 2, like real basic, like 2-3 chords, ramshackle.
Yeah, quite romantic.
Lot of energy, really enjoyable. Like, I had a lot of fun listening to it.
Yeah, man. I've like we found like we had a copy in the fucking like, in Ben's car, and we used to like listen to it once or twice. And oh shit, we listened to it twice. You know what I mean? It's only 25 minutes, but you can like blast it a couple of times. You're like, oh yeah, it just rolls around really nice, like. Mate, and that energy is like, oh, the live show was just something else. Like, and they made that EP themselves. They completely self-produced it. Illy, the bass player, he produced it, did it on tape and stuff. So it's like, you know, and they got it all printed. They did it all themselves. I loved their fucking ethos, man. It was like DIY, DIY, DIY. Like, they made all their own art. They did it all themselves. They made all their own merch. They made all their own fucking CDs. They had a real presence, and they just done it themselves. They booked all their own fucking shows, like, because no one's gonna fucking book a band called Quim Reaper. You know what I mean? Like, fucking, they did it themselves.
Yeah.
Like, it was fucking brilliant. And they had a real presence and like fans and stuff. Like it was insane. Like the fucking like, you know, everyone on the island knew who they were. Like and they had a bit of a presence in like Bristol and London as well. So like, but then yeah, they folded. 3 of the band, pardon me, 3 of the band went on to form Bully Bones, I believe they're called, in Bristol. And they're like a similar sort of garage band, and they've just like a 7-inch record cut. And so they're cracking on. I still need to go and see them actually. I haven't seen them since they've been in Bristol. Keep saying I will. I need to go down. And then Luke has done a few EPs in a band called Fat Earthers. Originally it was him and 2 drummers, and it's just now him and the drummer. So they're all still making music, but the band sort of like split into 2 ways. So Luke's gone and done his thing with Fat Earthers, and then they've gone and done Bully Bones. But yeah, that's how it. That's sort of missing all the juicy bits. I mean, what else do you want to know?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's always fun to just identify a group of people who just have very little intention of mainstream acceptability, just right off the bat by having a name like Quim Reaper, which for those who don't know, Urban Dictionary defines Quim Reaper as a name associated with a chap who gets more than his fair share of fanny rudder action. Alternatively,
it's fucking incredible.
Someone who hunts for minging birds, aka rough poon.
Who writes this?
That was written by a guy called Luke Doherty in May 20th, 2009.
Wow. Aged like a fine wine.
So, I mean, it's a fairly it's a pretty vile term to choose to like represent
brand yourself as, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, right there, that's like a commitment to the DIY ethos.
Yeah, they set down that road pretty early on.
I mean, they look great. I'd highly recommend people look up their EP on Bandcamp, have a little listen.
So like, I feel like since we're talking about it and talking about the band, and like, I feel like I know more than most because I was like around at the time. Yeah, they fucking, there's like a whole mysterious so the mystery of the album 2 or EP 2 or whatever it was going to be. Basically there exists an actual tape, like, because it was recorded, our sets at Duct Tape Studios in Rotterdam were recorded, so they're set at the time full of new material, and like covers that we were going to put on the next EP was all recorded to like tape and like 8-track properly done in the studio, and that exists, but it's never been like, nothing's ever been done with it. And obviously the band broke up like after that tour, so it's like, oh my god, I need to get hold of those fucking tapes.
You're telling me that there is a lost Quim Reaper album?
Yeah. It's like a whole thing. It's like, oh shit, we need to recover that, man, because there's like some loads of Lumer jam sessions as well. Like, so we spent the next few days at the studio just jamming. And there's a fucking coffee shop down the road, so we like got into stuff from the coffee shop, went to the studio, and it had you could go on the roof, so we were just on the roof like looking across Rotterdam. It's like, we are some jammy gits. It was like a Thursday or something, we were just like there on a rooftop in the middle of Rotterdam, just like, yep. Yeah, this is alright, life's good. It felt really good. It was like, shit, we're here. And we just fucking jammed all day with all this fucking vintage gear and stuff. Like Nick had like loads of old Fender Bassman amps and stuff, and like, oh man, honestly, like this gear is just insane. So we were just like geeking out over all the instruments all day, and having a grand old time. But yeah, there's that lost Quim tape, and it was such a shame because the band were fucking on top form on that tour, but they were just so like fractious, like they were really at each other's throats. I think a lot of cracks became apparent, but they were so fucking good. Like, they would covering the Fall, which I think has in itself takes balls, but they did a really good cover of Totally Wired, and they did a cover of Tanetta, Druggy and a Bitch, and that was fucking incredible. Like, I'd never listened to Tanetta before, and they had this Tanetta CD like in the van. So when we were like driving through France and Rotterdam, they like just had Tanetta playing, and like this. Like, I was sat in the fucking back of this van, and like there was like just gear and stuff, and I was just on the floor, and I was just like, oh, this is like crazy, like what's going on? Like, this like the van broke so many times on that tour, like they had to get a jump start off the ferry, I think, to get off the ferry, because it was like radgy, but yeah, and then it was my birthday, that was the end of the tour. It was the last show was Hull. Yeah, so the whole gig was like into my birthday, and we got this 3-litre bottle of Bacardi on the on the ferry. the massive ones, like novelty bottles. We got one for the rider for the gig. So there was like a bottle of champagne in this fucking, it was my 21st, and this 3-litre bottle of Bacardi for the band, and it just got crazy, man. Like, it was silly. We blew the speakers of we blew. It was like this little locals pub in like an industrial estate in Hull. I'm not going to name it for fear of retribution. But we they went in a few weeks before because it was near our practice room, and I went in like, oh, can we do this? Because they allow functions. Like, yeah, all right. And then we just fucking held this fucking mental gig there on Halloween, and it was rammed. Like, there was like 80 odd people in there. And it was a tiny pub. I mean, we turned up with this fucking 3-litre bottle of Bacardi before we play, and they're like, what? They're like, are you all right with it? Are you all right? And they're like, as long as we can keep the bottle afterwards. And we're like, yeah, right, sound. So they're like, and at the end, we were fucking like pouring fucking drinks for like the landlady's like mum and shit. It was wild. But we were all dressed, like, we were all cross-dressed, like, but I had a dress on. I think I looked rather fetching. But yeah, Quim Reaper, they used to dress up like for every gig, so Halloween was like just like normal for them. They used to like have all sorts of outfits. Like, they used to dress up as like nurses and like jumpsuits and fucking like they just used to like war paint, and like it was really cool, man. Like they didn't take it seriously, but then they also took it seriously a little bit. Like I don't know, they struck the balance perfectly. Like, but yeah, I'm chatting shit again. But yeah, they were so good, and yeah, that gig on my birthday, that was it. That was the last one. And they broke up after that, which is really sad. And that EP never got released. So, but yeah, they were just so good. And after playing with them and just seeing how they did things, it was just like, oh yeah, shit. You can just do things. You can just get in a van and drive somewhere if you've booked a show, and just play and sleep on a couch and drive somewhere else. And you know, so it's fucking, you know, it doesn't have to be as like, you know, I almost feel like this feeling is like the antithesis of, you know, of everything I think is good about music and what you can do with like music and where you can go and fucking like the sense of community and stuff. Like, if that is the sort of homogenized fucking crap we're heading for, like post-COVID, like all this fucking, you know, you know the sort of gigs I mean, like where it's all the same shite, and if that's what we're heading for, fuck me, because you know I think if anything we're playing with Quim, it showed us like, you know, that is literally, you don't need that. That's the opposite of, I don't know. I'm chatting shit again. I feel like you know, I don't know. I'm chatting shit.
If you enjoyed that conversation with Thom Foster, I highly recommend that you check out his Bandcamp project, Tollbooth Operator. There's a couple of songs up there, link in the description, obviously. It's really good, especially if you like sort of slower, more like country-ish Country Teasers songs. I highly recommend it. I also highly recommend Quim Reaper. The one album that is in the public domain will be in the description. It's really good fun. Won't take up too much of your day. We'll work on trying to find the lost album, because I, for one, am very interested in hearing it. If you liked this, then why not give it a like? Why not give it a comment? Just, you know, share it to someone else, you know, if you like it. I'm sure you have friends who will also like it. The cover art was done by Isaac Gray. All the music that you can hear was done by me. So until next time, have a lovely day.